good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to other people who are here with us, especially the speaker. Welcome to the Binalot Talk. For those who are not familiar, the Binalot Talks is a weekly talk that's hosted by the Archaeological Studies program. And we usually have this every Wednesday during lunchtime. So everyone's having lunch, relaxing, and listening to a speaker. And it's all very informal. But due to the pandemic, we moved this online. So now we still try to keep the informal part, and we invite different speakers. The good thing is we get to invite different speakers from different parts of the world. Case in point, the speaker for today. But for now, we have a few announcements. First announcement, I think there are some students here who are from the Archaeological Studies program. Please know that the enrollment is going to be on November 2 to 4, I think. And you can already find the schedule of classes online on the website. And also, if you need to ask or talk to your advisors, you can already talk to your advisors. Besides that, there is a webinar next week that will be talking in line with this topic. There will be a talk by the concerning the archaeology of Vietnam for 4,000 years ago, and its farming works. I don't have access to the poster right now, but you can check out the Archaeological Studies program Facebook. I think we reposted it. So you can, besides that, you can also listen to the plants, know more about the plants that are found in the Philippines and even in UP Diliman. There's also the College of Social Science and Philosophy will also be hosting a folklore conference. So the webinar earlier that I mentioned, it's going to be on October 27, but the folklore talk is going to be hosted on October 29, and it will be Dr. Grace Barreto Tesoro, the director of ASP, will be giving a talk about indigenous burials here in the Philippines. All right. Is there anyone? Arturo, are there other?
Yes. And sort of another announcement is that this is the last day to submit for the 12th annual CAPI conference. So if you have a research topic, research paper that you're interested in presenting, submit it before or by today, rather. It's a 250 word limit. Just submit your abstract and title to the CAPI conference email, which I could add in the chat.
And the CAPI conference is going to be held on I think December 4, right?
Yes, it's December 4th.
Yeah, okay. And it's online. All right. Okay. Thank you. I think that's all for the announcements for today. And then I guess we can start. The speaker for today, I think a lot of us already know her in different settings, but mostly we know her because she worked in the Philippines alongside a lot of the attendees here, and she participated in workshops with ASP in ethnobotany, but she also informally did a lot of art and experimental ventures here in ASP. Celine Carpent is an archaeobotanist who is focused on tropical past plant-based technology, covering periods as far back as prehistory through the study of plant anatomy, phytolith, and ethnobotany. She did her BA in History of Art and Archaeology at Paris 1 Pantheon Sorbonne University in 2000. She finished her master's in archaeology at the MNHN in Paris at 2015, and she finished her PhD at the University Rovira y Virgili in Tarragona last 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. She carried out field work in Taiwan and the Philippines for her PhD research on basket making. Her personal research concerns is the study of plant physical properties, and the identification of plant-based technology found in archaeological context. She's currently a postdoc researcher at the Culture and Socio-Ecological Dynamics with cases in the University Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona. I could be saying this wrongly. She's now working on the Fair Phytoliths project, which she will be talking about today, and it aims to improving phytolith sharing practices within the phytolith community. So let's all hear from Dr. Celine Carfon.
Hello, thank you, Anna, for introducing me. I'm very happy to present you my postdoc position somehow. And thank you for joining us early in the morning for European people and during lunch for Southeast Asian people. So thank you very much. So I am going to introduce you the Fair Phytolith project. I started just recently and 2 months ago, more or less. So I will try to explain what FAIR is about and what we are doing right now as a team. So I joined a team of researchers. So they are Emma Karoune, Carla Lancelotti, Javier Ruiz-Perez, Juan Garcia Granero, and Marco Madela, who are the main people working on this project. The project was started and developed by Emma Karoune. It is a collaborative project between Historic England, the UPF, so University Pompeu Fabra, and the Spanish Research Council. The project is funded by EOC Life, which is part of the European Open Science Cloud. So, what is FAIR? FAIR is a set of principles first that are considered as gold standards for data management and stewardship. FAIR stands for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So to better explain what FAIR is about, there is a good example with food cans. Just have to think like food cans represent data. And food cans are packaged in, of course, many ways and contain information on the outside about their contents. The annotations are important because they will help us to find the product we want. And this improves accessibility of the products, of course, and could be understood as access. The information about the content is findable. A recipe that will help us to cook the can content with other ingredients is, by definition, interoperable. The storage information will help us to reuse it, so it's reusable. And this is the idea with the FAIR principle. Your data needs to be somewhere others can find it easily. It needs to be accessible, or at least the metadata does. So ideally, an open repository. It needs to be easily combined with other data sets too. So there must be an agreement standards such as which methods were employed or the nomenclature you used. Or it needs to be in a format also that can be reused, I was saying, ideally the raw data or at least well-described metadata in a file that can be used by other scholars. FAIR principles are used for many different purposes. It is a simple set of principles, but its implementations can take time. It must be implemented differently in each discipline. It definitely cannot be applied in the same way in every discipline. So that is why the FAIR Phytolith project is a journey. So what is important as a point is FAIR does not mean open. Your data, FAIR data does not mean data has to be open. It is more about making all the data about the data, so the metadata, openly available. That means that another researchers can understand what data was collected, which method was used, and so on. But us, as a project, we do want to encourage more open sharing of data, of course. So we used to say as open as possible and as close as necessary. And why is that? It is simple. It is not always possible to share, to make data open. Data can be of sensitive natures, such as sharing data about human remains or human DNA or a geographical location of an archaeological site. It's not always a good idea, of course, to precisely share all the data, because in the case of an archaeological site, it can be an education and can be looted later on. So, and also as a very good example, material culture is could be really of sensitive natures, and such as indigenous knowledge can be. So there is, for this reason, another set of principles which is closely joined to FAIR, and which is called CARE. So CARE is a collective benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics. So this is a very important set of principles too, but today I will raise a focus on FAIR, because it is the topic of my talk and what we are currently doing as a research team. But maybe in an upcoming future we can try to discuss about CARE principle too, because we all think they are important anyway. So, and they deserve also a little bit of attention. There is also some concern about the researcher ownership of the data and its own ideas. That's why it cannot be always everything cannot be always shared for this reason. Because there are concerns about scooping also ideas or research. And this is something we can address actually by training our community. And by, for example, explain how you can deposit your open data using an appropriate license. And by, of course, promoting the benefit that open data will bring to our community and to you personally as a researchers. So somehow we can use the CARE principles to evaluate how openly we can share data. And FAIRs can be used to make our data as accessible, understandable as possible. So phytoliths. Phytoliths are plant micro remains. So I'm not sure everybody is familiar. I think so, but it's those macro remains are of silica nature, so we can recover them from archaeological context, sometimes inside and or on the top or on the surface of archaeological material, and of course inside plants, because they are pretty present in every plant part. So they are indeed very useful to indicate the plant presence and to identify it. Most of the time to the family level, but it can be more. Right? It depends of plants. So within the phytolith community, there have been some positive initiative already, of course, to move towards standardization of nomenclature and data sharing. Through the IPS, so the International Phytolith Society, there has been the recent publications of a second version of the ICPN. So this is the International Committee for Phytolith Nomenclature. The first one was back to 2005 and was head by Marco Madela. And there is a second one who was published in 2019 by Katharina Neumann and Al. And this is an important also publication because there are also guidelines for morphometric studies. And we are moving in the right direction with that. So the FAIR Phytolith project was started, as I was saying, a bit earlier by Dr. Emma Karoune. To explain a little bit about the project, it's important to start with its beginning. So she got Heidi to conduct a review of open science practices in phytolith research. And she looked at a set of 16 archaeological and palaeoecological journals in a 10-year period. And she picked up all the phytoliths articles that contain primary data. She found that 53% of the articles were sharing data concretely. This was any form of data. It could be at least a data table in the text or in a supplementary file. Then she refined this to look more closely at the reusability of data. So this included all the raw data and had to be in an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file or in a repository file. And this was only 4%. So so there are definitely a lot of works to keep carrying on to make phytolith data available and reusable. First of all, it's really she really made a point in her previous studies. So there is also something which is important regarding open science and this project. Is that there are studies that are actually pointing out that citation impact of making your research article open access is really strong. You can increase it by 25%. So there is a work held by Kolavitsa and al. That found that 25% of to increase your citations was possible if you just include a link to access your data in a repository. So this is something which is important to keep in mind. So here is a slide a little bit to sum up the advantages of making data fair and open in phytolith research. So for a wider community, it's first, it will have a positive impact, definitely, on the quality of research, because fair data management required to describe fully data and methods. It makes research more transparent and can be validated within our community and of course by other researchers. Fair data also allows other researchers to know what you have done, and this can link to greater collaboration in the futures. Third point is it's improving data management. That means that our data are reusable and also by the next generation of researchers. And this also have an impact on diversity and inclusion within our discipline. As adopting these practices means all research will be more accessible to all researchers. And for you, as a researcher, it increases citation of your article, I was just saying. And your work is available and therefore leads to a great visibility. And this really often leads to increased opportunities for collaboration to develop your work in many different ways. So if you want to start now with fair and open data, there is something which is kind of easy to do. You can make sure that your article is open access. So there is two standards. The gold open access is, for example, when you pay the article processing charges to the journal, or you have the other other option, which is a green open access, which is for free. And you put a version of your article in an open repository. You can also be aware that it is important to include a full description of your method. So it could be inside your article, or again, you can just put it in your supplementary file. But it's really important to improve the way we are actually publishing our methods. And of course, you can write a data availability statement, which explain how to access the full raw data of your study. And last point, you can also consider to put your data in an open repository. And just not, it's important not to forget to put a license. So you, other people who will use your study know how they can use it also. So the Phytolith project, what we have done so far, because of course it needs to be a little bit of concrete actions. So so far we have made a community survey to find out about your views about data sharing, and this survey is still active. So please do not hesitate to fill it out. And it's important for us to know what you are expecting, and also it's a community work, so it's important that we reach out a lot of Phytolith researchers about this. The project infrastructures is a project repository on GitHub. So you can see what we are doing because the whole project is completely open from the beginning. So you can interact with us through GitHub, of course, and through our website. And we also have a Twitter account. GitHub is a very helpful research tool. So we will provide a training for using GitHub, along with ferrying data through the project. And the fair assessment is taking sample of recent publication from also 2 geographic regions, which are Europe and South America, on all type of Phytolith research. This is separate from the survey. Yeah? This fair assessment somehow will help us to understand how FAIR can be implemented effectively, and it will help us to draw up also a guidelines for future Phytolith data. Oops. So this is a little bit about our planning from this autumn to this winter. So as I was saying, the FAIR assessment is still going on. So the deadline to respond the community surveys is set on end of November. And this winter, we will start to train in GitHub and the FAIR assessment project. And going to next spring, the final result of the FAIR assessment will be ready. So we will consult you as a whole community, and then we will write a data paper and a research article with the FAIR data guidelines. Also, if you would like to get involved, because it's a community-based project research, you can, of course, participate to the survey. So this is for us really important to gather data and your views again about how Phytolith research should be shared and seen as it is, and as it should be more. And you can help us also with our work by translating, by reviewing the FAIR guideline when it will be ready, and of course to make your research open and fair as far as it is possible. So, and if you want to be really involved, there is a call for a postdoc position, actually, from the Utopia call. So the UPF is a part of it, and you can join our team just by applying to the Utopia grant. The deadline is set on January 10th. And I put a link if you want to know more about it, and because it's a very nice grant. I had a look on it, and honestly, the salary is good, and it's a really, really nice opportunity to join a research team. So I was speaking of what we are doing. So here we have some links about the GitHub site and our website, and also our Twitter account. Everything is open access again, so feel free to visit our device and to just communicate with us. It's really important for us to have feedback and to communicate mostly at the stage of the research. And I would like to thank you to attend this talk, and I hope it was clear. I'm here, of course, if you have any questions, and if you want me to explain more about our project. So thanks for listening. So there is, again, all the team members that I recently joined. And this is it, I guess. And I have to thank, of course, again, EOC Live to fund this project. So thank you very much.
Thank
there
you.
is a slide if you want to see the reference. Yeah, that was the last one.
Thank you. That was a great talk, Celine. Thank you so much. And I think for everyone, I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Anna Pineda. I feel like well, my name is there already, but I am the co-moderator, and I will. If you want to ask any questions, you can put it on the chat. If you're feeling shy, you can also directly message either me or Arturo Tablan, JJ, who is co-moderating with me. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. There's also, if you also want to ask any questions, you can press the reactions button below and then press raise your hand. But first, I think, Celine, this is an interesting talk, and I like that you elaborated on the difference between fair and open data.
Yes.
And are there other projects that are like this, but not
yes,
focused on Phytoliths?
Yes. Actually, there are a lot of different projects which are using a fair principle. It's quite interesting because at the beginning I did not really get the difference between open access and fair, because for me it was a bit of the same. And no, it's totally interesting the way you can compromise, the way you're sharing data. So. And as I was saying before, especially in the case of sensitive data, it's more secure because you cannot really share everything because you can put people's in danger or archaeological sites in danger. So there is really a way to level it concretely to with fair principle.
Yeah.
And the team, we all September and October, there was so many conferences we joined. You know, and I discovered there was like a physicist, biologists, or I don't know, so even lawyers working with a principle. It's a very, very broad approach actually, and the thing which is interesting is it was somehow a little bit hard for me to understand. You know, like when it's really a hard science and they're talking fair principles, it's hard to get them honestly, because it's so well shaped to the research question and to the method, so that sometimes it really takes time to think of it and to get used to it. But it's worth it definitely, because after that you really have a great tool to work within other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? One of the comments here, she here anonymously said that. They think that every other paper nowadays are hidden behind a paywall, so data is becoming inaccessible. So it's good that people are still fighting for this, especially since it's an issue regarding data. Yeah,
it's really important because there are many studies that are pointing out that, you know, like when people cannot access data, it's hindering research mostly. So it's very sad if we can't access data, or at least metadata. And this is a way which is actually not breaking the law. So
Mhm.
again, it's a very good compromise to be efficient right now, and certainly it will, because we were discussing with Emma some days ago about this. So it's there is also a way to break this vicious cycles. You know, when you have to, for example, the gold open access, when you have to pay, the author have to pay to make his research available. It's a bit sad because you should not have to pay to make your research available. And by linking your research in open repository, just like GitHub, Zenodo, all these tools, you don't have to pay. And I mean, the way we work is making the things perfectly accessible, and because the license already exists, so you just have to put a license on it, and if you want to be quoted or not. There are really different levels of using open science, actually. So
Interesting.
it's a brand new world.
A brand, definitely. I think there's a question from Arturo.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Celine. That's seems like a very interesting and unique opportunity for this to not only open doors for research, but also open doors for barriers to entry into research in the first place, which I find really, really fascinating and good for research in general. So I guess my interest and my particular something that sort of stroked my interest is how far along is this type of fair research just like sort of access to data sort of widespread in terms of your specific field of archaeobotany? Like, is it sort of like regional based for now? So since you're based in Europe, is there I guess open repositories that have been started in, let's say, the Americas, in Africa, Southeast Asia?
Yeah. It's a worldwide, actually. So because IPS, International Phytolith Society, is based in America. That's true. We are mostly based in Europe. That's true too. But there are a board is in every continent, actually. So it's because we really aims to reach out everybody, every researchers which is working on phytoliths. So everywhere somehow, and students are welcome. It's not everybody who got to deal with phytolith research is very welcome, actually. So because as I was saying before, there are already two nomenclature, which are ICP1 and ICP2, who already exist. But if you look at literature, it's somehow sometimes difficult. And I was dealing also with that question personally when I was doing my master's and then my PhD, because I was always involved in phytolith research. But it's really difficult to find out, information that you, even the methods. So to give you a simple examples, how do you extract phytoliths from sediments? Because this is something a lot of us are dealing with or dealt with. So, and you have various procedures that are existing in the literature and which is incomplete because people are referring to others, and you see. So it's also, I think we will have an article about that, really to make a statement. And again, it will be on the open repository, so people will just have to consult it, right? So, and as it is open, it will be certainly evolved through times. So I think for me, it's not because I'm employed right now, I would say that, but it is the most perfect way we can work all together, because there are already changing methods and improvement, and also old-fashioned good recipes. So it's a way to discuss it openly, because for me, I'm starting to use GitHub, but everything is recorded when you're using this software. So that's marvelous, because even a mistake, I'm a bit shy, so sometimes it's a bit hard for me to use GitHub, because everybody can see I'm wrong with opening this branch or closing it. So, but it's okay. It's a good way for people to see it's transparent. So my bet is on that transparency also.
Yeah, and especially like that last part where you could, even though it sort of tracks all the sort of changes that you've made. It sort of, you could sort of refer back to where, let's say you made an incorrect assumption or you inputted data wrong along the way. I think that makes it very helpful for those, especially let's say that a project eventually gets left behind, and then to be, come back to that would be very interesting for, leaving that paper trail behind for others to follow back on, which is really cool.
Actually, it's something I do. I am still really a beginner, right? But I'm really impressed by all the possibilities it open up. Because there are so many ways we can fix things by being transparent about the methods only. So imagine about all the rest of the steps we can what we can produce is it's quite amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So now I think Sir Vic has a question, and then followed by Gretchen afterwards.
Hello, Celine.
Hello, Victor.
Nice to see you. You look great. Are you in Barcelona?
Yes, I am. It's sunny. Yeah.
It's the first time I've seen you as Dr. Kerfan.
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations again for all of that.
I owe you that. So thank you to you. Yes.
You owe yourself. You did all the work. This is fascinating, but I want to make a couple of clarifications. Is it a clearinghouse? This fair in Phytolith program which you're involved in now, or is it a organization? Because of course, as you know, because you have, I see, and I'm glad to see that Marco Madela is a part of the team. Since the 90s, the Phytoliths people, when they were still just a handful, were trying to, well, at least create a uniform nomenclature, and they had a problem with that, no. So they were at least split in two major groups. Well, actually split in two groups. One is really minor. So surely Marco's concern, which you already mentioned in early not years, was to standardize nomenclature, no?
Yes.
So the two questions there. Are you connected now, or how are you with the Persal research, Phytoliths research group, who's been doing a lot of databasing and sharing from South America? If I'm not mistaken, they're not in Mexico, they're somewhere in central, the research center for Phytoliths in South America, where Persal is involved.
It's Panama.
In Panama, correct? Yes. So that's so. How are you relating with them? And again, the second question would be, are you a clearinghouse, or is it like a standing organization?
I see. But first, we are open. So because one of our studies is involving South America. So of course we most of my colleagues actually work in South America. So I didn't check personally how we were in touch with Dolores Piperno or Deborah Pierso. I think Deborah Pierso is even in Texas, right? Because it's Dolores Piperno, which is in Panama.
Yes.
So I'm making a two-person in one, so it's a bit weird.
But they're two people.
Yeah, there are two different people actually. So and really great researchers. So we are part of the IPS. So this is the International Phytolith Society. So and we are the branch of open science inside this. So it's really open to everybody and to contradictors too, actually, because it's they are very welcome to improve our views. And so to me, there is no contradiction. There is just certainly a way to set up things more accessible, especially for students and new researchers, because of course there are people who are trained in geology, which are using Phytoliths, others who are using like me, more plant anatomy, and two different traditions inside one. So we are trying to reach out everybody, even botanists, I don't know if there are many today in the talk, but even you know, like people who are doing plant taxonomy are welcome because they are also using phytoliths. I think we are going through more or less.
Yeah.
It's not clearing. It's just
The,
like
you know, of course, the precursor of all this is like sharing reference collections in images. No?
yes,
The Phytoliths people were ahead of that. Wood, I think, partly, you know, the macro remains people are
yes,
way back. No? But you see, in FAIR, I think the FAI are more or less okay and repeat. But the challenge is the R, the reusability,
of
and I
course.
think you know why. And just by that study that your senior colleague shared, no, where she crunched the data, look at all the publications, no, and then look at the impact, the impact
Yes,
value, and all that stuff. But you see, Phytoliths work like many of those who are in the very specialized technical science archaeology fell into that bibliometric philosophy,
of
and
course.
so they keep on churning out all this data of results. And then, like you said, what's the word? Hiding behind a table, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then most journals will not publish your raw data, of course. No?
No,
And then if they do publish it electronically, it is grudgingly, and then you actually even have to pay.
yes, you have to.
So, but the solution really, Celine, think about this, no? And we are all guilty about it, but what is not being given emphasis in the process of generating data information is the report, the technical report. Now, everyone's focused because of the metrics. No? There's no value for report writing, no, in terms of promotion and kudos, and so people skip that.
Yes,
So they have wonderful notes, right? But those notes are not organized or integrated. No? And if they even put it online, it is like, oh, well, what does it all mean? It's all rubbish without context. Right? So, in general, site reports should be given emphasis because site reports are reports. No? So that's reusable. No? From
of
site,
course.
not,
They are.
not discussions in articles already synthesized. That's not reusable. That's engageable, no? Of
Yes.
course. And then, of course, there's a different knowledge track. But the reusability would be, so for phytoliths, it has to be, and I haven't really read a technical even from Marco Medela, no? A technical phytolith report. It will always be already a synthesis and an interpretation.
Yes.
So using the method in answering a archaeological question, no, etc. But you will not see a classic report on the analysis of phytoliths from site X or site Y or sites XYZ, or no, it will always be like and then one more thing, very thrifty in sharing images. Of course, when it's rice, they will share those rice phytoliths,
Yes.
unusual ones, but they will not. There will be, and now it's very possible because digital. You can actually have a phytolith analysis, a pollen analysis, a starch analysis, a macro analysis, where you will have a plate, no, with all the images of what you identify. That's reusable.
Also, yes, but that's metadata, for example, because this is the data about the data. So it's a world context that we are trying to reach
Correct.
out.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you publish only and sometimes you can't publish the data. So this is an important point because of the law or because of the sensitive natures of your data. So the metadata, if they are well explained and well located, like for example in the repositories that will remain open, sustainable, because you know, like a journal, sometimes you have like the green access is just like you have an embargo of 4 months.
Oh,
and then,
yeah, that's ridiculous.
that's ridiculous. And again, for me, it's a vicious cycle. So if you're using, for example, Zenodo or GitHub or all these tools, it's forever. You can assign a DOI to your data, you know, like to your wall methods. So that's even a really good tool for somehow be sure that, because if you have no money to go for the gold open access, for example, sharing your metadata will help the other researchers from the same topic to understand what it is about. So they already know how to reuse it, because it's a trick. It's a trick, but the tricks works actually. So because you can even publish, if you want your revised manuscript. And also what is interesting with open source is we can be the peer reviewed. It's us.
Yeah. Now, just following up from Anna's question earlier, Celine, what is the best practice so far in your, in your review of people applying FAIR? What is the best practice you've seen in?
Wow, I've seen too much, I think, to be sure of what is the best, but
I mean, like charcoal or I mean,
I think it will come. I don't know if Mike is around, but certainly plant genetics, because when you're publishing,
so they have the best practice so far.
For me, it's amazing, because of course they are living up of right upon them, just like for human, it's totally normal. But it's interesting because it's really what we need, to build up research questions and after to go for a useful comparison. But I'm quite sure in physics there are also great things, but I'm still struggling a little bit to understand, honestly, because it's not my field. So that's the thing with FAIR is you can see all the opportunities, but sometimes you have really, because I'm really focusing on phytoliths. I know in archaeobotany, it will be certainly the more advanced will be by yours discipline, like archaeology, for example.
I'll stop there first, but I have something to ask you later on.
Okay.
Because I think Gretchen wants to ask a question.
Okay.
Yes. Gretchen? Hello, Celine.
Hello, Gretchen.
Hello.
Nice to hear you.
Nice to hear from you. I'm sorry. I think you contacted me about this a month ago, and it's only
possible,
now that I read your. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for this, because I think maybe since last year we've been talking about this in the context of human remains as well.
Yes.
So I think maybe just to put into context this issue of data sharing in human remains, I think one of the greatest impediment maybe is really the agreement on what kind of database will be used. So that everything will be, so it's really a question of standardization. Although there are actually some databases that they are offering to use, but there is no training involved also on on the particular details of these database. And at the same time, I think it was already mentioned also by Sir Vic, but in human remains until now, the issue of nomenclature is very much a heated debate, especially on describing, for example, what you observe on bones. So people are not really in agreement on how to describe pits or lesions. So until now, maybe that also impedes, or maybe that is actually an area where we have to work on as well. And of course, on the personal note, maybe a lot of researchers still do not want to share some of the data that they have because also of academic interests in publications.
Yes.
Especially for people with career in the academe. So of course, getting published and getting cited is really very important for them. So maybe that also discourages a lot of them to open up the data that they have, which is quite sad because a lot of variations in terms of sexing, aging, and pathological observations are actually seen across many researchers. So data sharing is really significant. It will actually improve the interpretation of the data that we have. Yeah, maybe that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, but this is interesting, you see, because of course, if we keep the data and for competition reason, on the long road, I mean, on a long view, it's hindering research, definitely. And on the contrary, I was putting this slide about these researchers who make a point that if you at least put your data in an open repository, and you can choose a license again, so you don't have to share everything, you just level up. But you make it in a way that people can find it also. That's why findable is important. And this increased 25% your quotations. So actually, it's good for researchers to use a fair principle. This is a thing also. I was quite surprised because we all think, oh, that will be a kind of sacrifice to my career to publish the data, and not at all, because people have to reuse it in a certain way. So it's just for free, and they just know where to find it and how they can reuse it. So for me, that's a big difference. And maybe the thing is, well, I'm already a bit ahead, certainly, but every time I think of FAIR, I think of care principle, because I can't speak too much about the care principle, but they are more oriented about indigenous people too. And this might be another talk or round table, I don't know how, but I think it will be great if by thinking about these two tools, which are FAIR and care principle, to think about all our discipline, yes, how we can implement and level up this, because it's really important, actually.
Yes, that's true. Thank you for sharing that, Celine. Thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations to your post now.
Yeah, thanks.
Sir Vic would like to add something?
Well, Celine, there's just one way to test your FAIR system. Do you know any? Do you know? Of course, because if anyone will know, because you just did a PhD on something very close to it. Did anyone find, or is anyone working on the phytoliths of mulberry trees?
Oh yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think it's difficult.
No, but in Southeast Asia, have you Taiwan, and has anyone done the phytoliths of mulberry trees?
So I think because it's a dicot, so it's the dicots, they are producing phytoliths, of course, like the rest of other plants, but they are barely morphotype, unless I heard from the last EAA meeting, which was in last September, that Dolores Piperno is working on well, of course it's Amazonia, it's not South Asia, but interesting thing is she's working on Amazonian trees, and she's saying that there is a really huge field of study about bark trees, that they are producing morphotypes, so there might be a way in the future.
That's good for the others to understand why this is important. Is because of you know, we are familiar with the bark cloth beater and the creation of bark cloth. But it turns out, because I'm reading recently, for example, in Taiwan, there was a huge discussion whether these are really bark cloth beaters or pottery impressors. You see, pottery impressors, and that's a very old debate, no? But at the end, the bark cloth beater hypothesis or function won over all of this, even because of shape. But in many ways, it is also the idea that they are not bark cloth beaters is still not dead, because a lot of these bark cloth beater stone ones are made out of very fragile or geological stones, no? So they won't sustain, and that's why they break, perhaps, or whatever. So that would be a good thing to see if there's morphologically identifiable mulberry, because that's the plant that's usually used and cultivated and managed to harvest bark for bark cloth making, no? From the Philippines to the Pacific, no, etc. So. Well, if because you're now in the center of a database making, if you do find an interesting paper on that, do throw it our way, will you?
Yeah, of course. But anyway, I'm really convinced by fair practice, so it will be open source. So if I do, but you know, I'm more a person who's looking for banana phytoliths, and
it's another thing,
it's another thing, but it's
but you see, the beauty of the bark cloth is those beaters have grooves, no? And if they indeed were bark cloth beaters, the chances are you will have calcified, embedded
Oh yes, of
phytoliths
course.
on the surfaces of those
Yeah.
grooves.
Yeah.
For most of
It
them,
should be
they do have
trapped.
grooves. Yeah.
And maybe even bigger macro remains. It's possible. Yeah, true. True. So it's a better identification in terms of anatomy too. That's true. It's true. And but this is the future. Huh? Actually, I do believe so too. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's also already a discussion going on in the chat group as well, talking about the scientific method. Ara was responding to Gretchen's comment regarding the human data, remains and genetic, and I do agree that the genetic database is something that could be the benchmark for a lot of. I think I agree with you that was the benchmark, and I remember we were talking about the FAIR principles, and I was already thinking about the DNA. By the way, Mike sends his apologies because he was interested, but he was assigned. He had to go to a workshop. So he wants to listen to this because I think that he also has some concepts about this. He also wanted to add some ideas about it. But yeah, because it's I agree that the concept, that the material, that the methods, the techniques are not being published, or if they are published, it has to be published in a high impact journal to be accepted. So it would make sense that people would want to publish there, as opposed to the fight or the pushing that their methods become standardized. So if you want to standardize your methods, you publish that methods, you teach more people to use that methods, and then it's just a matter of people, a balance, people who are using different methods, using testing methods for this, and then eventually having an organization like yours or some other groups of people who will then decide that this is going to be the standard. But one of the questions regarding that is that we're talking already about big data, running information from getting information from all of that. When to do that, we should be able. Well, now it's available. The concepts of big data storage is also an issue. Learning how to use the GitHub, which could be easy for the future generations, but to understand all that, you also have to have the very standardized. Just to have your own laptop is already an issue for a lot of the people to have to run the data, to analyze the phytoliths. It's already a big issue for a lot of people. So in terms of, yes, go ahead.
No, sorry, Aunt, because it's true, but GitHub is a really wonderful tool. Huh? I'm still learning it, but it's a wonder. Yes, you know it. So it's a wonderful tool that I'm using like only 5% right now, but it's something I believe will be because younger people are using it on a daily basis apparently. So and it's an amazing thing to share when you're working on the same project also, because you can really interact and keep the track of what everybody did. So to me, it's also protecting who's from scooping again, even in the same team, right? So because we know who did what and when and how and why. So there is something which is quite secure about this tool. And also because I can speak a lot about the phytolith, right? But the fairing process of the phytolith data is important because we have been struggling, me as a researcher during my master again and my PhD to find out good methods to replicate and after, even if you are succeeded to extract phytolith from sediment or from plants, what do I do? Because you have all the counting, you know, how you are sure to recognize what kind of stat you can use. There are all these bunch of things which are important to make clear. Because if it's only an article, sometimes you have formats also which are well, first you have to pay most of the time to make your research available and to reach other people to read your works. So this is the first thing, but also some formats are quite difficult, because if you want to do that inside the paper, and you can't because the publisher won't allow you to exceed, I don't know, 700 words and so on. So you have the supplementary file, but actually people are not using all that options that much. So this is also about speaking about how you can use all the tool, but obviously FAIR sounds the best one because you can publish everything on the CCV file repositories that will remain always accessible, because you can attribute it to DOI, for example, and this is it. So it's really much more easier actually.
So this already puts when you make it available, it already automatically gives you a DOI, or how does it work?
For the project we are starting, but it will, yes.
Okay.
When we will have complete both, like the survey we are doing on the worldwide community of phytolith researchers, and the assessment we are making in between Europe and South America articles. So this will help us, yes, because these are facts that we will publish in that way.
Okay.
Celine, how long is your contract?
Yeah, 1 year. So it will end September 2022. Oh, hello. So much energy as ever, and so much love too. That's nice.
Celine?
Yes.
I have a question. I want to ask this question on whether do you see any possibilities of recommending this kind of framework to other archaeobotanical remains as well?
Oh yes, of course, of course. We are working on phytolith because there are already a lot of works to do, but this could be applied to any archaeobotany discipline actually, because the process will be the same. But as I was saying, it's a lot of work, because you cannot apply what we are doing for phytolith exactly in the same way if you are doing archaeology or palynology, because research questions could be different, methods could be different, and but this is totally something you can implement, and for the best, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you, Celine.
You're welcome.
Is that the only in terms of botanical material? Are you working with other botanists in doing the standardization?
But standardization is already published somehow. So we are using ICPN1, the one of Marco Madela, was published in 2005, or there is the second one from Katharina Neumann, who was recently published in 2019, which is so there are tools for the nomenclature. When you describe a phytolith, you have already procedures, but when you're reading articles, it's fancy, because even me, I was doing that. Like for a banana, we have a morphotype, so, and we used to say volcaniform, but it's not really a good descriptor. So you have to follow protocol so people can really reuse your research, because it's normalized and everybody is sure we are talking about the same thing also.
I was just thinking, Celine, I hope that our Russian colleagues and Chinese colleagues, especially the Chinese colleagues, because they do a lot of phytolith work,
yes,
are on board in the standardization and nomenclature, which is of course disadvantageous for everyone who's not, even for French, and but the French have the standards for I think for charcoal.
and lithic.
Yeah. But the yes, of course, no, the and Marco will be Italian, but really the lingua franca will have to be standardization in English. For better, for worse, we have no choice. No?
Yeah, I do agree. That's why, for example, the work we are doing between Europe and South America is great because there is a lot of Spanish also involved
Correct.
in South America. So it's really interesting. And also because we can keep a record of somehow, we can say, the vernacular used by other researchers.
Yeah.
I mean, not to reuse it, but to keep it a track, because sometimes it's interesting also to see how it has been described and for what reason. So yeah, there are a lot of possibilities, yes, to keep in mind. True.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the metadata, you can already see how
Yes.
similar or maybe different, or what's the difference between the two nomenclatures depending on the language. So that can
Yes.
also be a good perspective.
Yes, that's definitely how strong metadata are actually.
And that's why images are important, you know, no matter what you call it. But if you see the image, yes, that's that's my A rather than.
When you think about it, because we have even debate about images, because phytoliths, they're in 3D. So for me, you have to mount them into a medium where you can turn your phytolith to make pictures. It would be even better to make a small movie, right? But other researchers are using Antelan or other fixed medium. So you have pictures in 2D, and you have to, like politics, to turn around. So to give like different view in 2D of the same phytoliths, to be sure we are talking about the same thing. And you have also the different picture, because you can use a polarized microscope, you can polarized light microscope, you can use electronic microscope, and all that have to be clearly stated, at the beginning, so people know which tools they can use to compare with your research. And this is like a cooking recipe almost. It's really to rise up all about the secret making of each researchers, and for the best actually. So
how is the repository for all that information? Can it be handled by that project? Is it easy to upload or?
Oh yeah, I think, but it's for the research project, it's not yet completed, because we need to fill it with the projects which are starting, which are currently going on. But yes, I think it will be, if I'm correct, store on Zenodo and accessible from GitHub, and so yeah.
Would you say that the first step is to do the survey first, so you can get more information, or
it's all together, because actually I'm working on the assessment from South America and Europe, on the community surveys to reach out the maximum of phytolith researchers to participate. So it's all together. So so because it's just 1 year for me, so everything has to be but anyway, it's just 1 year, but I'm part of the board, so even if I do another work, I will keep participate in this project, because I really think it's important. Yes.
And to keep giving some ideas regarding how to because of course this is new, to still not influence, but to still give your your concepts and ideas, because of course you're working in the field as well. Well, everyone is there, so you're all getting new ideas from different people and from different perspectives, and that's a very good thing. And I think that's a very it could be hard, but that's a very nice perspective. It's good to get different perspectives from different people as well. You will know. I think there any other questions from the guests? Will you be taking this to? Will you be presenting this, or will you be presenting the results at some point, or it's just?
Yes. But what we are doing would be on the GitHub, obviously, right? So accessible and will be published. Yes, also.
Okay.
So as soon as it's accessible, done, and yes, of course, yeah.
I think we put the link to the GitHub here on the chat, so you can access it if you are interested to check out. It's open-phytoliths.github.io/fair-phytoliths.
Celine, are you face to face with your collaborators, with Mark? Do you see them, or are you all?
Yes, Marco Madella and Carla Lancelotti, because I'm in UPF, so we
So
are
there,
in the same, yeah.
so you see
Yeah.
him. Give
Yeah.
my love and regards. Give my love.
Oh,
and regards.
I will. Yeah,
Haven't
I
seen you
remember you
for
were both in Cambridge, so
20
you know Carla too, of course.
Yeah, we were in the same lab, and we
Yeah. So,
we know each other
okay.
very.
So I send your love.
Yeah.
I remember. I do that tomorrow, I think.
All right. I think it's a good time for us to start closing this talk. Thank you very much, Celine, and thank you to everyone who attended. Especially, I think there's a lot of people who are interested in doing phytoliths here. But I think some of us are also interested in even if we're not working on phytoliths or even archaeobotanical remains. The concepts that you have introduced is very interesting and might be used in other ways. So it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, the talk will be given by
Arturo raised his hand. Yes.
Oh yes. Go
No,
ahead.
I did clapping the hands. Emoticon.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, my age.
No worries. I think you're not the only one who had confusion between claps and raised hands. The next week, the speaker for the Binalot talks will be Sarah, who will be continuing. This will be, I keep saying that it's going to be the last talk for the Nayong Filipino, but they have so many good information and things that they really want to share with other people, and especially in the academic community. So it will be by Miss Sarah P. Bendanya. The title will follow. I think we will get the title by tomorrow or Friday. So we will be putting that. We will be uploading it on the Facebook, the Binalot Talk Facebook. You may also visit the Archaeological Studies Program Facebook. And also the website, and you can check out all the information there. In the meantime, thank you again, Celine, and thank you to everyone. We hope that you will be sharing this, and hopefully you will be sharing this as well if you're also in IPPA. That could be something that you can talk about.
Yeah, actually, I don't know, but I will certainly propose that to the team for the Phytolith project. But yeah, maybe a roundtable, like as you and Victor and Gretchen were mentioning, other kind of studies. So it could be nice. And within the care and care concepts, to have like a lot of archaeologists insight and to open a debate, and simply that, yes.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. So.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching and listening and asking questions. Thank you most of all to Dr. Celine Carfan for waking up very early. When she first came into the webinar, into this Zoom call, it was still dark outside, but now it's a bright and sunny Wednesday morning for her in Barcelona.
Such a nice metaphor, right?
Yes, of course. The plants are now growing. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll see you. See you, everyone.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Au revoir.
Au revoir.